Welcome to the One Puff Media Podcast, brought to you by The High Index, bringing you real conversations with people shaping the future of cannabis. Join us weekly to go behind the scenes of tech and innovation powering the plant. Come roll with us.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of One Puff Media. James, how you doing today?
Good, Alex. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Colin, how are you, sir?
Doing well.
Our guest
Nice to meet
today
you,
is Colin Robertson with Just a Pinch. Colin, break it down, man. Tell us how you got started, how you came up with Just a Pinch, and tell everyone about what you're doing in the industry.
Yeah, for those at home, we're Just a Pinch. We're a packing device for those with longer nails, mobility issues, or someone who's just simply looking for a clean, easy pack. Not going to bring it all the way back, but I guess I'll start around when I graduated from college back in May 2023 from the College of Charleston. You know, I noticed an issue when packing flour with my roommates. We were kind of always getting it all over the place, and we needed an easier fix. So one random day, I was just kind of hanging out on my back porch, and the idea kind of light bulb in my head, and I worked it up with a manufacturer and, designed a product to make packing easier for those who need it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you came up with this idea. What was it like? And was this your first time, I guess, bringing a product to the market for consumers?
Yeah, so I really had no experience inventing a product. There's no really playbook on, starting a brand like this. So I just hopped on Fiverr, found someone to make a prototype. And at the start, I didn't really envision building a brand around this. This was more just like I wanted something for myself. So that's what I did. I made a prototype for myself, and I was just using it, to pack bowls for myself for a good while.
Interesting. So you used
How does it
Fiverr.
work? How
Yeah.
does it work?
Yeah, so you put the device right here. You pull back the slide. I like to just push it with my thumb like that. And the back end is hollow. So you just push down whatever plant material you got, and it gets stuck in the back end, right? So then when you push it out, it just packs your bowl, and then you can use the back end to tamp your flour down as well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I saw it at the show, I was like, oh, this is a convenient little product. Like, how neat. And I immediately thought of some other consumer products that have just taken off on Amazon that I've seen. So I guess you went to Fiverr, you get a prototype made, which that's cool. We've leveraged Fiverr for a few different things and some video content. And so it's been cool kind of leveraging that tool and seeing how the crowdsourcing is and what capabilities are for finding resources all around the world. So you get this prototype made. How was it after that? Did you have to go out and find a manufacturer? Was this person already aligned with the manufacturer?
So at the time, I really didn't know where I wanted to take it. Career-wise, I was kind of in this space like where I was looking for a job, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my family was also in the middle of a really big move, so that was very time-consuming as well. But I was hosting like a lot of these kind of moving away parties, so to speak. And at those, I was just kind of showing this to all my friends, and they were like, whoa, man, that's like really cool. Like you could actually build a brand out of that. A lot of people would buy that. And I got to thinking like, well, maybe they're right. So I hopped on Alibaba and started talking to different manufacturers there. Also kind of skipped over. I found this other podcast called the Invent With Me podcast. It's this fellow inventor. He's got his own product, and he kind of breaks down his successes and failures throughout his invention journey. Through getting in that community, I tapped in with a lot of fellow inventors and just got a lot of different perspective on reaching out to different manufacturers and leveraging those manufacturers. And that's kind of how I got into the product development side of things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, talk
Very
about
cool,
really, just really leveraging the resources. Because when I remember when we met at the Nikan show, I loved the product. I thought it was super cool, and I thought your website, the way it was designed, the way that it was so B2C forward facing, it gave you that real good modern vibe to it, and showed the use of the product like in real time. So I guess you've pretty much leveraged all the components. Your internal resources, blogs, and really leaning on some people for the knowledge. What did it look like I guess, taking it to that next step, right? So you get these pieces in place. Now, how do you get I guess, that e-commerce piece connected back with manufacturing, ordering? How do you not order too much, order too little? Like, what does that look like when you're
Yeah.
really kind of
So,
laying it out?
mhm, I'm not gonna lie, there was some road bumps along the line. I first started in e-commerce probably back in, October of 2023. This was when I was like looking for a job, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was getting all these like print on demand videos on my YouTube feed, and I was like, I've got some money saved up from work back in college. Why don't I invest that into trying to make this work? So that's what I did. I started an Etsy store, and I learned a lot just about the e-commerce side of things doing that. And then through that, I also did some like drop shipping stuff that failed, but that taught me a lot about like building websites on Shopify and doing that.
Having to deal with those constraints of the
Yeah,
learning curve,
so
right?
once I kind of had an understanding of the drop shipping world and realizing like that not just any random product is going to sell, that you actually need to develop something to you actually have to have like something to stand out. That's when I started kind of really going full head on that.
Where did you find a manufacturer for this?
I found a manufacturer through Alibaba.
Right.
Initially we were going to do a plastic design, and then I hopped on Reddit, started kind of showing the product off a bit, and everyone was loving it, but they were like, we would prefer a metal one.
Metal, yeah.
So I went through Alibaba, found someone who did strictly metal manufacturing, and they helped me
An overseas manufacturer?
in
Okay.
China.
Were you required to buy so many in the beginning, or to
Yeah,
purchase so many?
there was an MOQ of 500, so that's what we're working.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
500 units or 500 cases?
500 units.
So yeah, not too bad.
No,
I remember
not at all.
back in the day with having to deal with like specific packaging we needed for different EPA products. It was a nightmare for us. We had to buy so many at once. Little different, right? You're talking a lot less value per unit, but always a nightmare. I was going to ask you, did you think about 3D printing it? Did you think about going in and just manufacturing your own? But I guess it would come back to the plastic component. And I love the metal.
So,
I think the metal looks, it's sharp.
so we were gonna 3D print it at first, and then my mom was kind of like, time is money. Why waste all this time 3D printing it when you can just have someone in China do it for way faster and probably half the price?
Yeah, and especially if you're not going to scale with that model, right? It'd be one thing if you were 3D printing for your own personal prototypes and just kind of crowd sourcing the feedback. That would make sense, I guess. And it sounds like you already did if you were on Reddit and people were like, "Nah, we don't want that plastic one." So it does make sense. So fast forward, from that point, you had this inception. What was that timing period like from this idea that you had to actually having your first prototype shipped to you by a manufacturer? What was the length of time on that?
So the very first prototype I got pretty quickly. It took about a month, but to get the full order from the manufacturer, it was actually a pretty tight deadline. I got them about a week before Nikan. So I placed the order at the start of January 2024, and it took like a few months for the production, and they came in, just 1 week before Nikan. So I was really cutting the time close there.
Yeah, it sounds like I think you would have been fine though. You'd have been just showing your website and hanging out, right? So, and was that your first show promoting the brand and the product?
Yeah, it was their debut.
Are we talking about Boston, Nikan, or Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Okay, the one you were just at.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So what was the kind of closeout for the show for you? Did you find it to be successful? I know it was a smaller show, but there was a decent amount of traffic there if you connected the right way. And how was it for you?
Yeah, I believe we spoke day 1. Day 2 was all like B2C. We sold close to like 50 to 60 units, so it was a really good turnout. I
Oh,
cannot.
that's great. That's great.
Couldn't be
Yeah, that's
happier.
awesome. How many
And
have you
have you?
sold to?
Today we're nearing our 100th unit.
Nice.
So, 1/5 of the way there, and hopefully in the future we can innovate upon the design and come up
Are
with
you are you in dispensaries anywhere?
not yet. No. That was kind of our purpose with Nikan, try to connect with a lot of dispensary owners and just build those connections.
Yeah.
Seems like that would be a logical choice if you're going to a dispensary, to buy flower.
Yeah.
Have this device sitting there, have someone behind the counter maybe show you how it works, that kind of thing, and
Mhm.
an
Yeah.
easy little $10.
I
Well,
actually
man,
work as a bartender. So, part of my entrance into the industry was to get this product out there. It aligned perfectly. Um, After my move, I moved closer to a local dispensary. They had a opening, so I just decided, it makes sense to become a bud tender.
that's awesome. We talked about this a few weeks ago on a segment where things just aren't flowing correctly. They don't put stuff where they should when you're checking out. And I had this experience and it was in Maryland, and with this raw like scraper thing, this $10 add-on. I was just like, oh, let me get that little stuffer scraper little tool thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a nightmare. The dude had to like do a separate transaction. He had to come behind the counter, unlock this other cabinet, unlock this thing, come back over, all to just sell me this $10 product, But it makes sense that lighters, products like yours, are up on the counter, easily accessible for those quick add-on items because it's going to help them as well. Same thing with candy. They should definitely have candy just in there. They know people are going to eat that shit the second they leave.
Exactly.
So that's interesting that you have that perspective of getting it out there. And you said you were on you're 1/5 of the way there. Are you on a path to 500, Colin?
Yeah. Hopefully we can get those 500 sales.
And are you guys pushing on Amazon and things like that as well?
We are on Amazon. Sales haven't really trickled in there yet. It's a way more competitive market on there for sure.
Amazon's a tough beast. Amazon is definitely a tough beast to break into. The cost to get it out there, you'll see a return,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just going to eat into your margins, right? So you can just put a little bit of money behind the marketing on through those channels, but then your margins are just gone because they cost so much to advertise and pay within that ecosystem that. And we didn't even ask, what do you charge per unit, direct to consumer?
$10 on the website.
Yeah, they're going for 10, $5 shipping.
And do any competitors exist? Is there anyone else out there? How, just curiosity.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen like those little like grinder kind of pin things. I don't know. They don't work well, essentially. I hadn't really seen anything that operated in the same sense that we do, with the same amount of ease and precision. There is some devices out there, but none of them are fitted to a 14 millimeter bowl. So it's not really the proper amount of flour that you'd want for.
When you fill yours up with the flour and you
Mhm.
want to drop it into a bowl, is it a predefined amount for that 14 millimeter bowl?
So it can fit up to a max of 0.3. I tend to do it about like halfway. That's generally like a 0.1. Yeah.
I know that PAX has it's a plastic thing. It's called, or maybe it's PEX, but it's a little plastic pinch down thing similar to yours, right? But it's only designed proprietary for one of their
Yeah.
handheld vaporizer units, right? And it's called like a
seen those
puck. It makes a little puck and it puts it in your dry vape they have. And that's the similar thing that I saw. That's the only thing that really stood out when I saw your product. But again, that is proprietary to their handheld smokeless vape, right? And so I think it was called like the PEX Puck or something like that. So I think it makes sense having one that actually fits universal size bowls, which most things don't. And it's interesting. Most people don't think of, I guess, the ancillary consumable pieces is like a huge market, but there's so much competition out there. If you're thinking about from handheld rollers to handheld stuffers to, this little cleaning device, these glass screens, whatever it might be, these specialized tubes or this storage spot or this mill grinder versus that, there is such a huge consumer market for all of these individual products. Are you finding that pairing your products might be a good play as far as with similar products and getting up some kind of like partnership so they're on the shelves together, they're co-packaged together? Have you been looking at things like that?
Yeah, there is one brand in particular that I feel like would be a really good brand to collab with. It's this brand based out of Philly called Jiffy Jeeb. It's a portable Jeeb.
What is a Jeeb? Hold on. Educate the uneducated here.
It's a gravity bong. I don't know if you've seen those like water bottles that you pull out of water and
Yeah, I have.
pulls the smoke. Yep. So it's one of those. It's disguised as a water bottle, but it has a glass gravity bong inside. Bowl, debowler included with it, and a grinder. So it's pretty much all in one package.
And those are called Jeebs.
Jeebs, gravity bong, whatever you want to call it. Very discreet. Fits perfectly with just a pinch, get rid of the smell as well. So I really want to do a collab with them. Beyond that, any grinder brand would be good to collab with. I feel like it goes pretty on par with that.
What are you doing for your outreach? Are you doing all this on your own, or do you have folks that are helping you out?
It's pretty much been all on my own.
That's awesome. That's the grind
It's
of
a
the
lot of
founder,
work.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, 7 days a week, I'm working in some fashion.
Mean.
Yeah, you got to do it. The grind, getting it off the floor is no doubt. But the fact that you sold, that you're almost at your 100 unit, you only been live a couple months selling products, and you barely made it in with getting the product before the show, I think is awesome. I mean, when you're going to look back on this and see whether this is a viable business in 5-10 years or whether you've pivoted on to some new entrepreneurship opportunity, I think it's cool to see for sure. When you're going out and trying to promote this product, I guess it's different, right? Because if you're not at shows, you're not individually promoting it. But do you think that getting it white labeled, or not necessarily white labeled, but as James was asking earlier about dispensaries, do you think that's the best path for you as far as, or do you want to kind of do it tandem, that B2B and kind of sell in bulk and that B2C? And if so, have you already started looking into what your margins would look like for direct to retail versus consumer?
I would definitely want to do it in tandem. I think that limiting my reach is just like, why would I do that? It seems, profit wise, obviously B2C is definitely the best, but if I can get it as in many dispensaries and as many consumer eyes to see the product as possible, I think that is the best long-term growth method for me, for sure.
Yeah. Do you hold the utility patent on this?
So it's currently patent pending. Definitely gonna try to push to get it fully patented. The problem is there is some similar designs. I wouldn't say specifically for cannabis use, but the utility purpose might be hard to get fully patented. So I'll just have to speak to some lawyers about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that process to get something patented. Curious to learn about that or know about that.
So to actually apply for the utility patent and get the patent pending status isn't too hard to do, but to actually get the full-fledged, product patented, it's a lot more in depth, a lot of paperwork that needs to be overseen. They need to do more of like a cross-examination of other products on the market that are similar to it in order to determine whether or not you have new utility within the product.
Did you learn a lot about not only your product, but how that whole process works, and interesting to you, not interesting?
That side of the business isn't the most interesting part to me, but it's important. I do need a little bit more education on actually getting, patents granted, because, getting that patent pending status is a lot easier than actually getting it granted.
How long does that process take to go for each stage?
The pending process is anywhere from 1 to 3 months, but I know people have had patents pending for years.
And you're working with an attorney you referenced earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Great to hear that.
So yeah, I would think that, and I don't know per se, but I would think that you would definitely want to get that secured and in place and
Mm-hmm.
issued before you're kind of aligning with partnership, especially with grinder manufacturers and people who are already in the metal milling space of consumer products, right? Because they could easily just pull it out, I would think, right?
Yeah.
You just design their own. Because I mean, what first came to mind is, you're the construction of your product, and you might have seen them at the show. Stash was a company that was there at this one. They're phenomenal. They got some cool products. I think that I don't know if they white label or wholesale other people's products, but that would be a cool collab, I think, and sell it in a
No,
package.
I actually got to connect with Rod, the owner
Yeah,
over
Rod's
there.
Rod's
We had
fantastic.
a great conversation. Talked design. He's nothing but very altruistic. Just really wants to help.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Rod's a phenomenal guy. He's going to be on a segment here, I think, in a couple weeks. We're excited. He was having some production issues with his Terp tap, and that thing's phenomenal. A huge
Yeah,
fan,
no,
and between the
give him a
tariffs and the pullbacks and some development issues, and so he's a good resource just because he's gone through it. Right, he's seen what that looks like and the struggles of bringing
Mhm.
products and dealing with some of that. So I think that's cool. And then I thought about Ongork as well. Their quality is just so good as far as their single use joint tubes are phenomenal. Just in their construction and quality. So I think companies like that really align because you did a phenomenal job. I mean, it's hard to see it, from what you're showing, but we'll get some stuff on here and we'll show it and have your website up. But it's really well designed.
Thank you.
And I like this that it sounds like a Bic, right? There's just something about that fidget component of it. And was that intentional?
So it wasn't until I started playing with it, and then I was like, we need to incorporate that kind of rigid, design into it to make it fun to play with,
Yeah,
Sitting there playing with your Zippo all day long, right?
Exactly. And that's like another angle we're kind of taking it from a marketing aspect. I want to make another design that's kind of like a pen that you just like click and can fidget with as well. Similar slide mechanism with the inner tube where it ejects the flower, but you just click a button and it's way simpler.
How do you load your device?
The way I load it is I just slide it like that. If I have a grinder, I just, get the flower packed in there and then I just pop it out.
So there's no hand loading of it at all from the actual ground flower to your device to the bowl.
No touching whatsoever.
Very cool.
That's
So
awesome.
you've eliminated some troubles there.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah, definitely saves me a lot of time. No more having to wash my hands all the time.
I think about how you could create a pre-roll version of that, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, people are scooping, they got their little trays, there's stuff in it, they're doing whatever they're doing. But I think about, and imagine if you had a long version of that and it actually just goes down into a comb and you just, it's almost like hitting a syringe in. But I'm guessing with the stickiness component of it, then, you're talking about something that's longer. So it's not a straight grinder. You'd have to go sideways. I could see some logistical issues with that, which is why I'm not an inventor of consumer products, so.
Yeah,
No,
we thought about it. It was a little bit too hard of a feat to figure out. 1 second here. I need to grab a charger.
Yeah, no, please. And we're back. Good with the power now?
Yep. All set.
Fantastic.
That's one thing that your device doesn't require is power. So you'll never have to recharge.
Never have to do it. Well, I like the idea that you just don't. I mean, there's nothing worse than you're just scooping up weed, and most people are pretty
Sloppy.
rudimentary with that. They're not using scoops typically. It's just let me scoop it with my fingers, and you got resin everywhere. There's weed, just like you were describing. In the beginning, that the solution that you were solving for was the fact that there was just stuff everywhere. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, I mean, my roommate would come in, he'd see weed there. He already knew I smoked a few bowls. It just eliminates that problem.
Yeah. So you were talking about your next level of, obviously you can't ever stop innovating. And So what is it? What does the next product look like for you, as far as for bigger bowl size, for bigger use cases, or just a whole different product line altogether?
Yeah, so I spoke about like continuing that, kind of STEM toy fidget kind of aspect. So developing that pen design is definitely going to be the next step in where we go. Beyond that, I don't really have any major products brewing in my brain right now, but you know, I feel like where we're at right now is a really good place, and what we've developed, and just going to continue pushing the line for now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the pen idea, it kind of makes me think about same thing. The diameter would be that much smaller unless it was the size of like a highlighter or a larger marker, right? So you can only put so much in there, I would think. I also think about the Dablicator and how they came out. Are you familiar with that? The
I'm
Dablicator?
not familiar with the Dablicator in specific, but I'm familiar with like hot knives and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yeah, and so before the Dablicator came out, there weren't too many options out there for disposing or not disposing, but measuring out and filling up
Dispensing?
your tinctures and dispensing your RSOs or any of your live batters or rosins or distillates. And so the Dablicator was just that. It was this kind of pen shaped design that instead of having in the rubber end of it, so just dollop down, the perfect dose for a dab, or your just straight eating, whatever it might be, or even your. And so I think about that product because when it first came out years and years ago, I was like, man, this is interesting. I was like, I wonder how much consumers are going to use this, because who's just buying straight tinctures or straight or something that, and then, obviously it was the evolution of, it's not just a consumer product, it is available to that B2C component. Let me sell direct to these manufacturers who are coming up with it, right? And so to see the evolution, and now they have their Dablicator road tours. So I think either once a summer, maybe every other year, they take like a coast to coast van trip with a massive Dablicator. They go around, they meet all these dispensaries, they go to shows, and they're really promoting the hell out of it. And it's been cool watching them grow from, one person company a few years ago to now 2, 3, 4, whole team and a marketing van and like all this stuff based on around this one consumer product. And now they have more products as well. But I just think that you're on the start of such a similar journey, and similar to the Toker Poker, which I owe you that intro, by the way. I think about the Toker Poker as probably one of the cooler, most unique, most versatile consumer cannabis user product there is by far, hands
I feel like we
down.
met those guys in Vegas.
We did. We met the owners of Toker. Well, I don't know if we met the owner of Toker Poker in that trip in Vegas.
Remind me again, because that name sounds familiar. What is the Toker Poker again?
Yeah, the Toker Poker it's like a Bic lighter case that has a flip down little metal prong on it. And then it also has a little like flat metal side on the other side, almost like a hammerhead, if you will. So that anytime you need to, poke down, or poke through or clear a clog, and then also tap it out. Because there's an interesting thing. Yeah. There's this interesting thing that if you ever see somebody who has a lighter, and on the bottom of that lighter, there's like this black mark, right?
Right. They're packing bowls with it or something.
1,000%. You know exactly what was done with that lighter. You don't even need to see the person. Right. They just hold it up. You're like, oh shit. Okay. We know. Yeah. We know, guys. And so the Toker Poker solved a real problem. One, because, people who smoke out of pipes and things like that, even tobacco pipes, they have to be declogged in instances, right? So it gave you already have the lighter, and it's just such a simple design sleeve that now you have this little poker thing, but you also have this little packer down thing. And when I first saw them years ago, and they've been around almost 10, 11 years now. I'm trying to think when it was either 15 or 16, sometime in that time frame is when they came out. And it was just a guy, just like you, Colin. And it was out in Colorado. He started it. He had a prototype made. He was like, well, I guess we're just going to go online. We're going to sell some of these, and bootstrapped it, man. Shows everywhere, music festivals. He would just pop up with all of his prototypes. Here you go, $5. And he'd be slinging these things. And then it evolved, and then you can get branded ones with breweries on it. You can get your brands printed on it. You can sell it everywhere. And it really involved it. Now, I'm pretty sure on Amazon, it's like almost 20,000 or more 5-star reviews. I mean, really incredible. You can go online, you can buy them for $9.99. And even to this day, even though he's crushing it online, the Amazon's moving, he's got that really good B2C channel. he still enjoys the shows, and they're still at the shows. They still promote it. They're at the music festivals. They're at the different B2B expos, and that's where I've gotten so many different brewery ones, different blues bands ones, different cannabis branded ones. And I think
so he's doing some promo items for people too, then, or companies.
Yeah, exactly. And he's trying to really align to that B2C, because I think it's critical. And I think what you have, Colin, is something just as unique. And I think about that. He came out with the one, he had the standard big size, toker poker, and then it was accommodating the round lighters, and then it was accommodating, the smaller bics, and then it was accommodating these other size. And so I can definitely see the evolution of your product being something like that. And I also,
let me look at that again. Can you turn it real slow? Just just spin it side. There you go. Just like that. Alex, you and Billy and I were talking the other day about some stuff we were looking for promo items. That could be a possibility.
See, I'm like that, James. That's what I'm talking about.
That's why I'm on the show.
Hey, I love it. Hey, Colin, let me ask you here.
Colin, sell us 100 of those. We'll put our logo on there and high index.
So I was going to ask you, how can you with your manufacturer, can you get them engraved from the existing manufacturer you have, or have them imprinted with something on it?
So I'm not sure with the current manufacturer. That's something we'd definitely have to discuss. I really think that is also the next move.
Seems like you'd sell a lot more volume, like if you're doing them as promotional items to companies.
Sort of branding on here to make it stand out, because otherwise people just think it's a chillum, and that's kind of hard to promote sometimes.
Yeah, well, and I think when I think about the packaging, right? You don't necessarily have to worry about hanging it on retail shelves and having to differentiate your product versus someone else, because we're just not in that space, right? It's not like it's going to hang on a wall and people need to know what it is. So, your website does a phenomenal job, but in person, you're exactly right. What is it? It's always going to be the question, especially if it's just sitting there by itself. But I think the name you have, Just a Pinch, kind of resolves that, because you're like, oh, but at the same time, maybe not, right? Maybe somebody's like, oh, maybe I'm just smoking just a pinch, right? And it does oddly look, I don't want to say oddly, but there are some resemblances to the, early 2000s, late 90s, little metal oneies, screw-on things with the little rubber cap on it, that little bullet-looking thing. So I can see the similarities. So I think it would, definitely, if we could throw One Puff Media or the High Index on the side, give it away at a conference, we'd love that, right? Help us, help you, get it all out there. And let's definitely keep that conversation going. But I would think that you'd probably want to have it maybe across the top or on the side, Just a Pinch, with maybe like one tiny icon of measuring, some kind of like something to differentiate. Oh, it's a device. It's not a smoking device. And it's tough. You got limited space and things like that. But yeah, I think it's really cool. And let me ask you, would it be feasible, as I think about oneies, I know they have those, glass cigars, if you will, or, the glass joint tubes now, and they have some things like that. But all of those kind of have, most of them that I've ever tried, always have the same constraint. It's getting back out what you don't want in there, right? And so your device, it kind of has this utility application that I think can be carried over to other products, that quick dispensing of, the pinch, right? How could you leverage that potentially in something like,
is that the little thing you slide down the side?
Yeah. And it just dispenses it out in that perfect puck, or that perfect little spot. Imagine if that was like how you cleared out your bowl. You don't even need a toker poker. There's a little side button and it dispenses all of your ash or whatever. And it uses that same kind of technology you have for dispensing the clean weed, but now you've somehow incorporated this into some kind of slide or bowl of the next level caliber, right? Instead of dumping out your slide, in a bowl, you pick it up and you whoop.
Definitely a interesting idea. I'm trying to think like how the mechanism could work, because I don't know how flame resistant this is, and I don't want, but working a mechanism into a bowl like that is definitely a very, very interesting idea. I agree.
Well, you see, because what I would envision is you got your mail slide, even if you can find a way to do it nicely with glass or even metal. Most people are getting away from metal, but now they have the new metals that are coming out that are high heat resistance. But there's still that can, at least for me, if there's two options in front of me and one is a glass tool and one is a metal tool, I'm going to go for the glass tool. And I think most people would, just because of those days of those super harsh bullet kind of style, or those screw together devices that, you know, from back in the day, you'd find this like thing, you thought it was a tool because there's screws on it and shit, but it wasn't. It was just some random thing in the garage. And those things were hard as shit. I mean, they got hot, they were terrible. And so I'm always weary, but you know, this new alloy, you know, space steel and plain aluminum and like all this stuff is really being leveraged for more consumer products like grinders and bowls. And so what I think about is, imagine, you know, especially again with that company Ongork, or I think that's how you say it, right, James?
Onrock.
Man, I'm way off. Onrock. And
Onrock.
They have some beautiful metal, you know, water pipes
Grinders
and things like that. And imagine if the bowl itself had your little flicking mechanism. So you didn't necessarily need to do anything, but when you picked up your bowl to take it,
the drawing board after this.
Yeah. Well, so before we get too far off topic there, as you're trying to reach, and you're so close to getting that 100 and reaching the next 5, what are your plans for that educational part that we were talking about? What are you doing to kind of differentiate? Hey, it's not a smoking device. What are some of the things that you're looking to do to curb that?
So on TikTok, I've kind of been coming up with like content that doesn't explicitly show what it is, so that people have to, you know, click through the call to actions and really see what it actually is. That way, you know, it helps further invest them in the product, just because there's a little bit of confusion on what it is to start with, and then they look further into it and they're like, oh, it's a cannabis product for packing. They can see all that on my website, but like on the marketing side of things, you know, I got to keep that all kind of clean.
Dude, you could come up with the same concept for coffee lovers with espresso grounds.
Yeah, no, funny enough, we posted a TikTok with coffee grounds. That one did pretty well. I went pretty semi-viral like last week. We did like 6 million views on TikTok, so that's
awesome.
Started to convert some sales for real.
That's great. And wait, forgive me. And God, I guess this is just showing my age and my ignorance of social media, but I didn't think you could use it. Well, shit. I mean, but still, I feel light years behind everyone on their social media, you know, skills. And here I am thinking, you know, I thought TikTok was banned. I didn't think you could use TikTok in the US anymore.
So I believe Trump extended the, you know, he's just kind of,
there's a deadline for China to do something with him.
He extended that date. He's probably going to extend it again. I know they donated a large lump sum of money to
usually does the trick.
To keep the ball rolling. So we'll see what happens.
So is TikTok your main, I guess, outreach social media platform? And
yeah, at the moment it is. Instagram, I don't know if y'all have ran into any trouble with them before, but they banned me off there, so that's where we're.
They're not nice to cannabis products or anything.
Yeah, when we stood up One Puff Media, we couldn't even start posting. We had like a 30-day hold on our account, so we ran it through the high index, and it's ridiculous. I mean, just with the name, and I get it, right, to some extent. Hey, it's your business, it's your platform, do whatever you want, you know, ban whoever you want. But it's just interesting when I see, and I don't know who their policing agency is that's really going in and saying, hey, you're non-compliant or you're compliant. But I think about all the crazy things that I see on Instagram, right? All the things that I'm like, holy shit.
X-ray
and I can't
crap.
even, like things that there's no way should be allowed on social media, period. Like just scary shit, right? And then you're going to say that I can't just start up my page. And I'm like, what? You know, I'm pretty clear about what I'm going to do. So I guess in regards to TikTok,
but
it really is. And it's weird. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was living in a different life, the politics just didn't even cross my mind, right? The world of politics wasn't even anything that I'd even think about ever in my entire life until I moved to
in
the
relation
DC
to cannabis
area.
Or just in general?
In general. Ever. Okay. Ever. I mean, just so far removed from that like GovCon space when I was living in the islands that there was never I didn't look at politics, and I didn't even start looking at any kind of component of politics until almost in my 30s. And I think what's interesting about that is when you're thrust into it and you're just thrown right outside DC, and not thrown, but you move outside DC, just changes your perspective and you realize that everything is political. Every aspect of every piece of our life is all based on somebody who doesn't really know what the hell they're talking about, putting some kind of political balance in play on something that they shouldn't.
There's politics in your 5-year-old's baseball team.
Oh, there's so much of it. But that kind of politics, it's very interesting to learn the different dynamics of, wait, you're going to be on this team, you're going to scout this player, you want him on this team. No, we don't like those parents, they're going on that team. Okay, shit. So like, man, it's all over the board. But yeah, so I guess what would you recommend for people who are out there trying to get started? And I guess before I even ask that, how do you get a video to get 6 million views? As somebody starting out, we started out our business and we're starting out One Puff Media.
Incredible.
We don't leverage TikTok, right? We're not on ship, but maybe we should be, James. How does that happen? What does that look like to get the video started? And then what's that feeling like when you're just seeing videos just roll in views and hits and likes and shit?
It's pretty crazy. I will say, for starters, if you are trying to start a brand or do anything like this, it sounds a lot easier than it is, but just start, just get the ball rolling, whether that's, making a post, trying to network with manufacturers, just at least try and, see where that leads. You really have nothing to lose and just trying. On the social media side of things, I would say that the algorithm, especially TikTok, favors a lot more absurdity. So that's kind of the angle we took. I used it on dirt. So I went in my backyard and I just grabbed a pinch of dirt and dispensed it. And a lot of people in the actual gardening community, so the hashtags we were using was hashtag garden TikTok kind of thing. And people were thinking oh, this is an aeration device. And they were constantly engaging in the comments, and that further pushes your post into the algorithm. So everyone's like, what is this thing? What is this thing? And then they go on my page and they see it's actually a packing device. I would say just crazy content is generally what drives engagement.
So you are now One Puff Media and the High Index's new senior TikTok correspondent.
Hey,
You're going to get us there. Get us some presents.
No, that's cool.
That's
man.
great, Colin. That's really creative of you. Very creative.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I could see you could go do it on a golf course, right? Just bring out your little thing there, back up a bowl, and then walk over and have a divot on the green and just fix your divot with that.
It seems like there's some other applications. I mean, get your mind flowing a little bit, right? About what else could it be used for.
No, definitely.
Folks that I've got hanging baskets, on my back porch, and I need to pull out a little bit of dirt just to get some lettuce seeds in there or something, right? Well, I just put that in there, pull it up, done, put the seeds in, drop the dirt back in. Right? It's an interesting concept.
Definitely see it being used that way for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when you're grinding on your day to day and you're in the budtending space, which is super awesome. I wish I had time to be a budtender. Yeah, I mean, I really do love it. I love the interaction of people, and I think people who are knowledgeable that should be in that space. And it's nice to go to a store and talk with people who know what they're talking about, who can actually talk about the products, the benefits, the different terps, the different cannabinoids, and not only that, just the different products and brands in the space. And so it seems like you're somebody that really has that. How has it been kind of juggling the day to day with the increasing amount of work that your business is now taking over the last 3 months since the show? How has that been?
Yeah, it's stressful, I will say. But, the bud tending, I'm about 10 months into that. I'm kind of used to it at this point. When I first started, it really did drain my social battery, just talking day to day about all the different aspects of cannabis. But, just being in the space has been so fulfilling. I've been able to help so many people who actually need it, and that's just a really good feeling. Beyond that, I've been able to learn the product a lot more than I would have been just shopping recreationally. Weed is expensive. With my discount, I'm lucky to be able to learn so many different products and be able to educate people on what's good and what's not,
Well, what's the line right now between you being a bud tender for XYZ dispensary and wanting to tell customers in that dispensary about your product? Because you probably can't, I would assume.
Yeah, there is some legality when it comes to soliciting, so definitely can't.
Have you reached out to this dispensary or to the owners?
We've spoke. It would be more on a consignment kind of basis, but definitely just something that's been in talks for now with the owner. And
That's not a bad option, though. I mean, you've got the owner, the creator of the product, who's the bud tender, right? I walk in and like, what does this do? Well, allow me to show you, right? And here I get, a nice demo from the creator of it. And, consignment's not a bad way to go. It's not the best way to go, but if you're brand new,
it gets it on the shelves, and it's definitely something am considering. It's just a matter of getting that in place.
How much have you had to bite your tongue talking to customers at a dispensary because you want to tell them about your product?
Definitely a lot. I have so many customers with long nails come in, and I'm like, need this. Like, no, you're struggling to pack your bowls. It is what it is, though.
Now, I can definitely see if they gave you that right and you can come in and consignment, hey, look, I'll give you 50 units, I'll give you 20 units. If we sell, you guys can have 50% just to see how it goes on the store shelves and give it a proof of concept kind of thing. I don't think they would scoff at that. They'd be like, oh, this is great. Easy margins, 1099. I don't need to buy in advance. We'll make money together kind of thing. But I would also think there's probably some constraints on your side with just really getting that conversation going. The fact that you've only been there 10 months, right? And it's like, I've been here 10 months. Let me sell my products on your shelves. And so I could see that as one being a difficult conversation to have. And depending on the size or the organization you're with, especially in Maryland, there's a lot of big companies that operate out of Maryland that have a lot of clout and a lot of like SOPs that are in place. So I'm sure that there's certain things that, they do or do not allow you to do. But that's really cool that you've been able to juggle it all, get this off the ground, get this product to market, hit a few viral videos, and just build something that's just really cool to see. I absolutely love it. I've had so many ideas, and I think your suggestion earlier, anyone getting started, just kind of do it. Just get started, make a post, whatever it is, right? Because when I was younger and had like product ideas, never around cannabis, I didn't consume when I was younger, but always around certain things. Like I always had this idea of headlight sneaker designs and like all sorts of crazy shit that I had built like these small prototypes on, but never did anything with it. And I think about all those things. In the 90s, there wasn't social media. So it's not like we were just going out to put a TikTok video on this prototype we have and see how it goes. That world didn't exist. And if you could get on dial-up in my day and age, and dealing with Roadrunner, I was battling with my 5 other siblings who is getting that time on that one desktop computer on your AIM or whatever. So it was just different. Starting out as a teenager and having ideas and trying to go kind of consumer product entrepreneurship. And so I think it's really cool seeing what you're building. And I wish that certain ideas I had, I just jumped on it, right? Well, screw it. Let's just act on it. Let's just make this. Let's not think about it anymore. Let's just do it. And that's ultimately what we did with the high index, right? When we got started, it was, we just got to do it, right? We can't think about it anymore. It's a good idea. How do we bring it to fruition? What's the next step? Just start moving. So I guess like as we start wrapping this up, it kind of leads into a great segue of just some questions that I think will help people out getting started. What was one thing that you wish you knew before launching? Getting into this and starting and building out this product, what would you knew that you'd go back and do differently right now?
That it's gonna take time. You can't rush the process. If I had just taken a little bit slower, maybe my Instagram would still be with us, things like that. I was really trying to force something too quick, and often I do that with a lot of things in life, and I realize I just gotta slow down, have some patience, take it day by day, because at the end of the day, that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, move it slow. Did you find or did you have any massive hurdles or horror stories that you want to that help shape your brand or
Every new
help kind of
business
dial things
does.
in?
Yeah, you better have one.
I had mentioned the plastic designs. We had 3D printed them, but we also did an order of 500 of those. So now I just have 500 plastic devices that I'll probably never do anything with.
Well, those should be your show ones. Find a way to hand those to somebody.
At Nikan, we were handing them out as little like pieces of our history.
They don't work well
at this point. Yeah, they're they're not great. And I don't want anyone inhaling microplastics and stuff like that.
I agree with you on that. Nor do you want your product out there if you're handing it away for free and people think that's your only product you've got,
Yeah,
it's not going to be looked at favorably. Probably
exactly.
best to keep those on the shelf and write them off.
Yeah,
And the
I guess
microplastics is a big thing too. That's
exactly.
a
environmentally
huge
smart.
thing. Yeah. And especially now they're talking about like the plastic retention and water bottles and stuff and storing in your
Everything.
body and everything, right? So and I think the entire world knew that this stuff we're making is never going away ever. Maybe there's something to it. I think it's that subtle piece, just like when people used to smoke on airplanes. I think people were like, no, this probably isn't a good idea, but
Yeah.
fuck it, let's just do it, So like you're like, but this probably is not a good idea, things like that, and which actually we didn't ask this earlier, but how is it cleaning your product? Resin's a monster thing. I mean, you just clean with
pretty
isopropyl.
simple. Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty gunked up. I haven't really cleaned it, but like
That's the cleanest gunk up
Yeah,
device I've ever seen. So
exactly.
clear.
water or rubbing alcohol, it doesn't get that dirty. It doesn't have the same like sticky resin as if you're smoking with it. So it stays relatively clean. And you're not
Yeah.
losing like those terps and those trichomes to your fingers that you would if you were packing by hand.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What advice would you give someone building a consumer product like yours today?
Find the right manufacturers and, find a fellow community of inventors maybe as well. Talk to people.
Bounce ideas off
Bounce ideas off
concepts,
people. Yeah, definitely.
process.
It's hard to do things on your own, and you should always just not be scared to reach out to other people for advice.
Yeah, remove the ego
Excellent.
component out of it. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Excellent.
What's the kind of mindset? And you touched the base on it a little bit. The mindset when you get into some of these issues and you've had these problems with your plastic ones, or maybe the metal ones weren't right, maybe the production wasn't right, maybe the delays that you were getting ready to face beforehand. What mindset helped you get through some of those tough spots when you were still trying to, maintain everything else, but then dealing with these issues?
Yeah, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, felt like, oh, I just want to give up. But like at the same time, I mean, I think what helped me get over that hurdle was Nikan per se. And, people who haven't been to trade shows aren't going to be able to relate to this as much. But getting out there and kind of seeing that proof of concept was really what has helped me to be able to push through those tough days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And just, that seeing the love from everyone there really has been a motivating factor for me. And I guess for those in a similar situation who maybe haven't been going to these trade shows and stuff like that, I would say if you're having a tough day and confused where you want to go with your product or whatnot, maybe just take a break for the day, come back to it later, and you'll come back to it with refreshed mind and be able to work on it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And was that Baltimore show your first trade show?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, no, that's sound advice. That's really good advice. And I think about that often. A lot of people, when you talk to them outside of the industry, people who aren't in the industry, or maybe people who are, but are still a little disconnected from like the real industry, right? Boots on the ground consumers are driving the industry, right? And I think what I love about the show so much is you said it perfectly. When you're there, you realize that you're an entire industry, that you're really amongst not only people, but businesses and like-minded humans that all want to see the same thing. And being a part of that system and being in it, you realize that there's viability into what you're doing. It's valid. People want it. And I would think that would really help kind of lift the spirits and keep you pushing forward. I know for me, it does. Every time I go to a conference, I wish I just was at a conference every single day because
it's electric. The energy there. It's
even the small shows. And especially if you've never been, just being in to tap in and see, man, there's so many people grinding it out. There's so many people in it. This is a real industry. And most people outside of it, I'm sure if you went to anybody outside of the cannabis industry, or maybe if they weren't just cannabis enthusiasts, whatever it might be, and you were like, here, this is just a pinch, blah, blah, blah. This is this consumer product that we're going to bring to market. They'd be like, this is the worst idea I've ever heard. Like, who's going to use that, right? Because they don't really understand that how viable it is and how many businesses and people and how much money is really driving this thing forward. And you hear about it all the time, passing the $1 billion mark on this and that. But it's really when you see the people and you get in the environments and you realize that, okay, I'm onto something. This is real. And so I think that brute force of just pushing through when you have it is definitely something that you just have to keep enduring through and just pushing yourself past. Because as we scale and with the high index and getting a tech platform off the ground, we feel that as well. That's real life. It's good days, bad days, signups, no signups, constant sales calls, demos, hurdles, bug fixes, just all the constraints all the time. It's always fun, and I think that's what, and I think that starting any business, you're going to have a lot of these challenges, but it feels amplified in the cannabis space, right? Because it is a niche market.
Road bumps,
Yeah.
A lot more road bumps, but
what legacy do you hope Just a Pinch is going to build on for you? What is your vision for a few years down the road?
Yeah, I've always kind of gone against the grain. I've never really wanted to work a normal job. I've always wanted to build something bigger than myself. So down the line, I hope that Just a Pinch can be seen as something, like the Toker Poker or the Grinder, just something you need in your arsenal of products, that's where I want Just a Pinch to leave a mark.
Yeah, that makes
sense. How can
sense.
people get a hold of you? They want to go out and buy your product, find your website.
We're on justapinch.us, either that, or you can check us out on TikTok Shop. You can find my email at justapinch01@gmail.com, and then justapinch_ on TikTok.
That's awesome. Well, I didn't even know there was a TikTok shop. Again, and all the stuff
I'm not on it.
I'm not on either. I think we're going to have to get
kids are.
TikTok going. I thought it was banned. I didn't even think it was a thing anymore. I've
No, it
never
is.
had it on my phone. And
on it.
I've always been too conspiracy theory. Man, TikTok, they're going to hack my shit. I put that on my
Really
phone.
on that one. You might be on.
You still take the risk, huh? You still take that risk, huh? If I didn't have so much stuff on my phone that was related to my business and PII and just a bunch of stuff that I access through the cloud on my phone, I don't trust that putting some app out there that everything I've heard is very biased towards how the algorithms work here in the US and the Western hemisphere versus how it works where it was invented. Right. And I think about, man, so it's tough for me to get behind it. I can definitely see value, and congrats on the 6 million views so far. That's incredible. And I can't wait to see those convert to sales for you, just blow up. And you're like, oh shit, I need to order 1 million of these right now. So I hope you have that problem.
They come in different colors other than green right now?
Green and blue at the moment, but we're probably going to expand that to a whole variety of different colors. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, no, that's good to know. I'd like to see the blue one, and let's have a conversation after this and keep the things going, because we're going to definitely order some things, and we want some unique products to have as our giveaway at the Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit here in October. And what a cool gift that would, your cool piece of swag to give away, because there ain't anybody else going to have it. So I think that's really cool. So we'll keep that going for sure.
Well, it's been awesome.
Yeah,
it's really
thank you
enjoyed this.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story and your story and journey, and we're excited about the passion that you have and the product you're bringing to the space, and it's been a lot of fun.
No, thank you guys for having me on. It's been great to share my story and, hopefully inspire people to go out and start their business or brand, and,
Yeah,
for
sure.
Absolutely. James, thank you. Colin, thank you. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time as we spotlight more of the people and innovators pushing the plant forward. Until then, thank you for rolling with us.